Hello everybody, welcome back to another What's Cooking CGH video. I'm Sherry with the CGH Health Foundation, and I am a health coach and an amateur chef, and I always try to look for healthy recipes and share them with you. Today I'm going to be making a lightened up version of a quiche. Now quiche is not something that you would probably eat every day, and it's because it is full of saturated fat and cholesterol and lots of calories. A single serving of quiche can run upwards of 400 calories. But I thought I would look for a lighter version of it, and this is a lot less calories, a lot less saturated fat, and it's something that you might want to put in your weekly rotation. It's so easy. The way I'm going to start with lightening up the recipe is with the crust. And so instead of that crust that's made with white flour and lard or butter, I am going to use tortillas. And this is my favorite brand of tortilla. And I like this one because it's lower in sodium, and I can get a wheat version. So this is a whole wheat tortilla. And they come in different sizes, of course. You can use any kind of tortilla you want. You can buy those big burrito sized tortillas, and if you want to use one of those, you can get away with probably just using one. But these two tortillas don't come in that big size, they're smaller. And so I'm going to be lining my pie plate with 3 of these. And I sprayed my pie plate already with some cooking spray. Make sure that you get it up on the sides too, or your tortilla is going to stick to the sides. So all I'm going to do is take these 3 tortillas and start layering them in, making sure that I get up the sides and covering the middle. And you do have to kind of press it and pleat it just a little bit. There's the first one. And here's number 2. You can see I'm just kind of pressing it in there and wrinkling it a little bit to get it to fit. And there's number 3. So I've got most of the sides of the pie plate covered. I do have some overhang here. And what I'm going to do with that overhang is kind of fold it under a little bit, because if it's hanging out too much, it's probably going to burn or get too crispy in the oven. So I'm going to kind of fold down those parts that overhang the edge. And so there is the crust for my tortilla, or for my quiche made with tortillas. Wasn't that easy? Let me set those aside. Another thing I love about this recipe is that you make it all right here in the pie dish, so you don't have to dirty a lot of extra dishes. And I am going to be using 4 eggs. I'm going to be starting off with 4 eggs in this dish. And all you do is just break them right into the tortilla. There's 1. And there's 2. And so here's something I have to tell you. I don't eat a whole lot of eggs. And that is because the yolk of the egg contains quite a bit of saturated fat and cholesterol. And in fact, the American Heart Association suggests that we eat only 2 eggs a week. But I do want a little more filling. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just toss a couple of the egg yolks. And so that way and that's where all the saturated fat and cholesterol is, in the yolk. And so I'm going to break my egg open and use half of that shell to kind of strain out the egg white. I was kind of hoping I'd get a little floater piece of eggshell in there because I wanted to show you a trick, but we'll see if it happens with this one. Oh, yep. Oh, darn. Okay, so here's your eggshell. Makes a really handy little tool for picking up, and so I'm going to pick up actually that extra egg yolk. And oh, it happened. Look at this. Okay, so I got a little piece of eggshell in there, and you can just use your egg shell to lift that out. That's the slickest thing I've ever seen. So I have 2 whole eggs in there, and I have 2 egg whites. And so I'm going to take my fork and start kind of breaking up the eggs again right there in the tortilla shell in the pie plate. Now a typical quiche recipe is going to have eggs primarily. It's going to have heavy cream. Usually going to have some cheese in it. Might have some bacon or some ham. We're trying to make a lightened up version. I have seen versions of this that use cottage cheese as the dairy. I'm going to use some fat-free Greek yogurt, and we're going to do a half a cup of the yogurt. So what this does is that it adds a nice creamy texture. It also adds some protein, a good hit of protein. So this is going to be a really high protein dish because you've got the 4 egg whites and you've got the yogurt going in. So there's a half a cup of the yogurt. Put it right in there in the dish. And I'm going to just again use my fork and start getting that yogurt blended in with the eggs. This will take just a minute or two. You want to make sure you have a nice smooth mixture. Get all of the kind of yogurt all blended in there. Once we get done with it, it's kind of look like a custard, which cream and eggs are the basis of most custards, so that's headed in the right direction. I could probably leave it a little lumpy because think about it, if you used the cottage cheese, you would be getting the same effect, but I kind of want to make it smoother, so I'm going to get that yogurt mixed in there as well as I can. Make sure that the egg yolks are all mixed up too, so you can't see any big chunks of yellow, and it'll just make your quiche look better in the end as well. So I was saying most quiches are going to have, or a lot of quiche recipes are going to have maybe some bacon. The classic quiche recipe is quiche Lorraine, and that's bacon. We're trying to lower the saturated fat and lower the calories in this dish. And so I think this is a great opportunity to increase our veggie intake. And I'm always about trying to get vegetables in, any way that I can. So we're going to make a vegetable version of the quiche. And I think that I have it pretty much done. And so if you can see, I've got the egg and the yogurt all mixed up, and it looks like a nice creamy custard there. So we're done with that part of it. All right, so vegetables. Oh my gosh. Spinach. I think we should eat a lot of greens. So I have about a half a cup of spinach that I chopped into smaller pieces. I'm going to throw that right in there in the dish. And I have about half of a red bell pepper that I diced. So those are pretty small pieces. This doesn't stay in the oven for a long time, so we want the vegetables cut up really small. And if there are other vegetables you want to put in, not all of them are going to be able to cook that fast, but here's a great opportunity to use up any little leftover cooked vegetables. Maybe you had some broccoli the night before for supper, or some asparagus, or maybe some zucchini. Zucchini would be one that I wouldn't put in here raw because I think it would release too much moisture and might make your product soggy at the end. But if you had some grilled zucchini last night and you want to cut it up in little pieces and put it in your quiche, that would be a great addition. So I have the peppers in here, I have the mushrooms. I'm going to put in 2 or 3 green onions that I sliced into little pieces. And I've been talking about cheese, so I am going to add a little bit of cheese here. And the thing about if you're trying to cut back on cheese, because again, it's a saturated fat, cheese is the #1 source of saturated fat in the American diet. But if you use a strongly flavored cheese, then you can get away with using less and still get that flavor from the cheese that you desire. So I have some crumbled feta here. Other good choices would be maybe some grated Parmesan or some sharp cheddar cheese, or even some blue cheese you could use in this. And I'm just using a half a cup, so that's for the whole quiche in crumbles. And last but not least, and this is totally optional, I happen to have some dill in the refrigerator that I wanted to use up, some fresh dill. So I have about a teaspoon of dill that I minced up really fine, and I'm gonna put that in there. You don't have to do that at all, but I just thought it would be nice and I wanted to use it up. So I got everything in there. You don't want to just stick it in the oven like this. You have to make sure that you get those vegetables and the cheese kind of mixed in there. So I'm just going to take my fork and start kind of tossing it, pulling it up from the bottom and turning it over until all of those vegetables are coated with the egg mixture. So that's going to take just a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect, but we don't want any like dry vegetables sitting on top. Don't want everything to get cooked into the custard mixture. Oh, I think I got them all coated, and then I'm just going to pat down and spread them out again so I have a nice even layer. And that is going to cook very well. Okay, so my oven has been preheating to 375 degrees. This is going to go into the oven for 25 or 30 minutes until it is set in the center. So if you check it at 25 minutes, what I do is I reach in with my oven mitt and kind of just give it a little wiggle, and if it's still jiggly in the middle, I leave it in for another 5 minutes. And I will tell you, every time I've made this, which is only half a dozen times so far, it has taken a full 30 minutes to set, but I would still check it at the 25-minute mark. So there's our quick cleaner quiche. Let me show you one that I took out a few minutes ago. Isn't it pretty? All the colors from the spinach and the peppers, they look awesome. And I'm gonna serve myself a piece and give it a taste. It's lunchtime. A little bit of a stick there. There we go. All right. That's really good. What not to like? I hope you'll give this recipe a try. We have tons of recipes out there on our YouTube channel, so check them out and let me know what you think. See you next time.